We are live. Let me just post this on the CSJ. There we go. Now, we are live. What's up, Egohackers? If you don't know me, I am Elizabeth. I am a female ENTP, and I am going to draw. That is my introduction. And let's leave it at that, because I don't want to get too informative on you. What's up, Egohackers? No, I don't want to hear it. You don't know. I don't want to hear it. I am Elizabeth. No! Type faster. Oh, I don't want to watch this one right now because I have to put my full attention to this one. I'll do this one.
To the C.S. Joseph podcast.
I gave you all I own, put you on this golden road, but I'm a little stronger now.
Let's see, this is still, yeah.
What's up, Ego Hackers? Welcome to the C.S. Joseph podcast. I am your host, C.S. Joseph. This is season 35, episode
Nice
1.
resolution.
What are the God functions? Oh, holy smokes. C.S. Joseph doing seasonal content on YouTube and on the podcast again? Yeah, it's been a long time coming. Besides, I decided to fulfill a promise that I made to this audience years ago, many years ago. And that promise was that I would, in effect, start giving explanation as to what exactly are the God functions. And I hinted at them in a couple of videos, like two and a half years ago, maybe even 3 years ago.
Something's off.
As we've just passed our,
Maybe it's
are passing our 5-year anniversary of the channel, and which is pretty exciting if you think about it. But yeah, the God functions. It's been a long time coming. We had to flesh out all of the content relating to the 4 temples and the temple wheels before we got to this point.
Yeah.
But knowledge of the God functions is so
fun.
important and so radical when it comes to Jungian analytical psychology, 4 sides dynamics, which is basically 4 sides of the mind interpretation of Jungian analytical psychology. Also, anything related to Myers-Briggs type indicator, as we still use their four lettering system, which, yeah, it's inaccurate. Yes, Jared Vaughn, I know it's inaccurate. Yes, I know you would prefer us changing it because it's not really correct, but we use it for SEO and people Googling this stuff, and that's why I do it. So, not going to change it. Makes it easier for people to find us on YouTube or on the podcast.
Yeah,
So,
Jared.
anyway, that's what I do.
Jared.
That's how I'm going to roll. So yeah, outdoor chase, walking around. It's been too long, folks. It's been very long since I've done this, but getting back into the swing of things and having Chris Taylor's support with the Acolyte questions, because we have a very large volume of Acolyte questions coming in every month. And to get his assistance has been fantastic. I meet with him on a weekly basis. We discuss the questions, we discuss the answers for the questions, and then we assign them between each other, and then we get them filmed and distributed out to all of you folks. So special thanks to the Acolyte members who pay for that service and keep the lights on and keep this business running, and also all of the families involved with running this organization fed. So special thanks to all the Acolytes out there for being loyal and sticking around with us all the way through. So yeah, And because of their generous financial contributions, same with the Journeyman members, and you could become a Journeyman member at csjoseph.life/members, we felt that it was finally time to start reintroducing new seasons to YouTube and the podcast as well. And for this particular case, we are going to be discussing the God functions, which is absolutely fascinating. So, introduction to the God functions, or what are the God functions, which is the name of this particular playlist of season 35, but it is also, this is the introduction episode before we go into super deep as to what exactly the God functions are, at least from a personality type perspective and how they.
I don't think you have to explain what an introduction video is.
Let's actually discuss first where the God functions come from. And they come from our understanding of the 4 temples. So every single person, regardless of type, belongs to one of the 4 temples. There is the soul temple, which is the ego of humanity, the heart temple, which is the unconscious of humanity, the mind temple, which is
I
the
bet you I just
subconscious
did
of
that
humanity,
like a few seconds
and
ago.
the body temple, which is the super ego of humanity from a macro level, a macro psychological perspective, right? So from this point of view, this macro psychological perspective, everyone belongs to these temples. The soul temple is about character. It's also about being desirable. The heart temple is all about reaching acceptance, and it's also about personal freedom and passion. And then its main element is fire. Going back to the soul temple, its main element is water. And then the mind
give her
temple,
light slippers.
it's all about performance. It's also all about the truth, and its main element is wind. And then you have the body temple with its main element as the earth, and it is most concerned about what is left behind. It's concerned about legacy and everything thereof, which is absolutely also achievement, legacy of achievement, basically. So these are the 4 temples, and how do you know which temple you are in? Well, it's very simple.
Hello.
So soul temple people all
Hello,
have
nickname.
ESTP, ENFP, ISTJ, and INFJ in their heads, as they make up the 4 sides of the mind. I am an ENTP, and thus I belong to the heart temple, because ENTP ego, my shadow is an INTJ, my subconscious is an ISFJ, and my superego is an ESFP. And any one of those 4 types have all of the other 3 types associated with that within their temple, and that makes up the heart temple.
I want her
And
to
then
have
also
light shoes.
the mind temple are ESTJs, INFPs, ISTPs, and ENFJs. And then we have the body temple, which are ENTJs, ISFPs, INTPs, and ESFJs. They make up the body temple. And if you just look at which type is a person's ego, that is basically their type. And then for their ego, that's what we assign as their 4 letters basically. But then you look at their shadow, you look at their unconscious, look at their superego, and they all follow the same type of sequence. All of those 4 types are representative of one single temple, which means any one human being represents basically an aspect of the 4 temples, but ultimately one of the 4 temples at any given time. And that's where we determine that. The thing is, though, is that where the God functions come into play is that the God functions ultimately are what each of the 4 temples worship or focus on, or are putting all of their energy, their life, their investment into. It is insanely important to them. It's kind of like, when you actually look at the word worship and how it's actually defined, it really is about, what someone puts their attention towards the most, or what they put their attention towards. And that's basically a real practical definition of what the concept of worship means. And when you go into a temple, that's usually because they're worshiping something,
This
or
is
putting
the
all of their
ISFJ
collective
female.
attention onto something. And that's what each of the 4 temples are doing. And each of us belong to one of the 4 temples.
I'm almost done.
I'm part of the heart
with
temple. So
all of
my heart temple
gender
is
variations.
focusing specifically on 2 God functions. And those God functions is introverted intuition and extroverted feeling, right? Even though I'm not an introverted intuitive myself. I have introverted intuition nemesis, but that's part of my unconscious. It is not part of my ego. So I'm technically not an introverted intuitive by that definition. I am an introverted sensor. However, just because I'm an introverted sensor does not mean that introverted intuition has any less significance on my life. It's so funny because, like, even from my perspective, I had mistyped myself for many, many years. I started learning Myers-Briggs type indicator and Jungian analytical psychology when I was like 21, basically is when I started. And you know, I've been involved in the science and being a pioneer in the science for about 15 years. I got 15 years
Damn.
of experience that I've been doing this, and I got into it in an effort to save my marriage. But when which, you know, that didn't really work out, but at least I gained a skill along the way. But the point is that I would mistype as INTJ specifically because I really, really identified with the question.
Well, making the designs is going to be able to
personal freedom,
contribute towards my primary
to
project.
Introverted intuition. I'd always like yes, or like, oh yeah, I'm all into that and whatnot. But then I would end up being mistyped. I would be mistyped.
But I
as
need
an
to put more
INTJ,
time into
when
this.
In reality, I was actually an ENTP. And the reason why is because of the God function and God functions and their influence on my life as a heart temple, a member of the heart temple, basically. So the passion that INTJs had, I would claim that passion basically on the MBTI test, and the MBTI test would just say, oh, well, you're an INTJ, when that's not actually the case. God functions basically end up oftentimes muddying the waters when it comes to people typing themselves, and it can make it really, really difficult for people to type themselves, which, I mean, it's understandable, and it's also really, really frustrating, like very frustrating. So that's why that's just one of the reasons why it's so important to understand what the God functions are and how they actually influence and impact every single person, and as much as it does so for each of the 16
this
types,
is going to serve
well
a greater
all
purpose.
Of their different octagram subvariants.
This is basically me. This is basically part of my foundation.
Subvariants.
I'm establishing my foundation for the greater project.
Pay attention to and be aware of. It really.
But if you're talking about the personality types as a whole, yeah, this is my main project.
Jungian analytical psychology, an extremely complex system to understand. It's so funny when I often am talking to ESTPs or ESFPs, like, oh man, you're putting me in a box, you're putting me in a box, you're taking away my freedom, and I fear your freedom, And I'm just like, no, this system is so complex that it's not actually putting you in a box. And then certain aspects of this science is variable, right? But it is variable within the confines of the system itself. So you only have a certain amount of potential to be.
Okay, so in order to explain myself more, this is my main project. These are the comics I follow also. This one is my main project. This comic right here. It has specific genders for the comic, but this is my personality type comic with my personality type characters. And let me see. And these are the main characters of that comic. There's just going to be some gender variations, and these are the gender variations. Also, I sometimes use these little characters in order to describe certain scenarios with certain personality types, and sometimes gender is a variation in those scenarios, so having these is useful. The ISFJ yeah, the ISFJ female is not going to be in the comic, most likely, but she is going to be used for videos or little TikToks that I have where I explain how certain dynamics work between certain personalities that would be different from having that would be different from the experience of an ISFJ male to an ISFJ female, because there are some differences between the genders and how they express themselves, even though they're the same personality. ENTJ women aren't real. For the most part.
To be variable, basically, within, which type you are, and that's based on your octagram, based on your nurture. Because human nurture will adjust, the variant as to which you are in terms of your nature.
But what is real?
Nurture impacts and adjusts nature over time, right? So you may have the base nature being an ESTP or an ESFP, but your octagram, also known as your nurture, will adjust it from there. However, before your nature is even determined, well, what is determining nature? Well, we learned that recently, especially in our recent Cutting Edge episode. It was a season 18 episode, behind the paywall at csjoseph.life/members. And
right, I have to watch the new premium lectures.
We learned about input, process, output, feedback. And the output is actually our nature. That is our type. But the feedback is actually our octagram, the nurture. But what is the process? Well, the process really is the 4 temples and ultimately the God function. So that's the process. And the input is something called the Rosetta Stone, or at least our interpretation of cognitive origins. If you want to learn more about that, then you'll have to get the Ego Hacking by Text masterclass at egohackingbytext.com. And you have to already own the course in order to be able to get the masterclass. It's a prerequisite. But if you do already own the course, you can go to csjoseph.life or offers.csjoseph.life/EDT
I feel like I need to change
masterclass, and it'll take you to the sales page and get the masterclass, which it is life-changing. And understanding how cognitive origins work fundamentally from the perspective of what we are calling the Rosetta Stone, and understanding production and consumption of cognitive origins and the new level of ego hacking that provides, it's a big, serious deal. And that's the input. But this particular season, season 35, is focusing on the process. Input, process, output, feedback. Everything in the universe follows that loop, basically. And we are discussing in season 35 the God functions, also known as the process from which our cognition follows in order to create our nature, which is the output. Nature being the 16 personality types, right? So from that point of view, the God functions basically are ultimately the focus.
How's your hiatus from Discord going,
Samwise? Right? And it's very, very fascinating how that works out, right? So the God functions basically for the soul temple are extrovert intuition and introverted feeling. Extrovert intuition is all about wanting to be wanted. It's all about having a better future for everybody. It's all about having vision. It's about being as desirable as possible and making yourself as desirable as possible. And introverted feeling is also their God function, which means they are extremely focused on character and being the best version of themselves, ultimately ideal versions of themselves whenever possible, right? And then you have the heart temple, and it's introverted intuition, all about personal freedom and passion, and what they want to do, where they're going. The God functions basically for the soul temple are extrovert intuition and introverted feeling. Especially in our recent Cutting Edge episode.
I missed some of this mentally.
It was a season 18 episode behind the paywall at csjoseph.life/members. And for the journeyman folks, we learned about input, process, output, feedback. And the output is actually our nature. That is our type. But the feedback is actually our octagram, the nurture. But what is the process?
Feedback.
Well, the process really is the 4 temples and ultimately the God function. So that's the process. And the input is something called the Rosetta Stone, or at least our interpretation of cognitive origins. If you want to learn more about that, then you'll have to get the Ego Hacking by Text masterclass at egohackingbytext.com. And you have to already own the course in order to be able to get the masterclass. It's a prerequisite. But if you do already own the course, you can go to csjoseph.life or offers.csjoseph.life/EBT-masterclass. And it'll take you to the sales page so you can get the masterclass, which it is life-changing. And understanding how cognitive origins work fundamentally from the perspective of what we are calling the Rosetta Stone, and understanding production and consumption of cognitive origins and the new level of ego.
I'm trying to do this thing that SE users are really good at, where they repeat whatever they just heard in order to pay attention more, and I don't know if that's a thing that they do consciously or not, but I'm trying to do it consciously.
csjoseph.life/EBT-masterclass. And it'll take you to the sales page so you can get the masterclass, which it is life-changing. And understanding how cognitive origins work fundamentally from the perspective of what we are calling the Rosetta Stone.
Understanding how the cognitive functions of cognitive origins work fundamentally.
It's a big, serious deal.
Or what they're calling the Rosetta Stone.
This particular season, season 35, is focusing on the process. Input, process, output, feedback. Everything in the universe follows that loop, basically. And we are discussing in season 35 the God functions, also known as the process from which our cognition follows in order to create our nature, which is the output. Nature being the 16 personality types, right?
Nature is the 16 personality types.
From that point of view, the God functions basically are ultimately the focus of attention of each of the 4 temples, right?
Focus of attention in each of the 4 temples
very,
of the
very
God
fascinating
functions.
how that works out, right? So the God functions basically for the soul temple are extrovert intuition and introverted feeling. Extrovert intuition is all about wanting to be wanted. It's all about having a better future for everybody. It's all about having
Heart temple.
vision. It's about being as desirable as possible and making yourself as desirable. Extrovert intuition is all about, it's basically for the soul temple or extrovert. Fascinating how that works out, right? So the God functions basically for the soul temple are extrovert intuition and introverted feeling. Extrovert intuition is all about wanting to be wanted. It's all about having a better future for everybody. It's all about having vision. It's about being as desirable as possible and making yourself as desirable as possible. And introverted feeling is also their God function, which means they're extremely focused on character and being the best version of themselves, ultimately ideal versions of themselves whenever possible, right? And then you have the heart temple, and it's introverted intuition, all about personal freedom and passion. And what they want to do, where they're going, where their own futures will take them. That's and their passions thereof. And then their other God function is extroverted feeling. This is why members of the heart temple crave acceptance, very much crave acceptance.
That makes me think if an introverted intuition is something that I worship, but it is not something that the Soul Temple worships. But an ENFP and an ENTP both have the NI nemesis. Does that mean that NI nemesis being struck in a negative way is actually worse for an ENTP because it is also something that they worship? Because I know that when people strike me in the NI nemesis, in other words, if they basically threaten to take my future away, tell me that I'm not going to have a good future, inquire about whether or not I have confidence in my future, it can often bring me to tears. Is that going to be the same in an ENFP? Is an ENFP going to react the same way, or will it be different? I would have to ask an ENFP girl that, because I know if I ask Raka if he cries about worrying about his future, I might get a no based on the fact that he's a guy. That might skew it a little bit. Okay, back to the video.
And spend a lot of time in their life working hard to make themselves as acceptable as possible. Then you have the mind temple, which is introverted thinking, constantly looking for the facts, constantly
yeah, that makes sense.
looking for the truth. And extroverted sensing, always trying to optimize their own personal performance as well as the performance of others. This is what makes the mind temple such a great teacher, right? That's why the mind temple cares about learning and education, right? And as much as the heart temple cares so much about passion, and the soul temple cares so much about character, right? And from the soul temple's perspective, you can't even become someone of great character unless you're desirable, in as much as you having the substance necessary, the firmament necessary to actually be a person of great character, right? That's what that's all about. So from beyond that, we also have the body temple, which is introverted sensing is one of their God functions. Introverted sensing is concerned about what is left behind. It is concerned about the grand experience and my own experience. What can I explore? They're all about exploration. They're all about experiencing so much more. And then extroverted thinking, which represents achievement. And even something that is explored, or exploring the unknown, is in its own right a big grand achievement. This is why Elon Musk is trying to get to Mars, for example. And that is his ambition, and that is what he is spending his life doing, trying to get to Mars and explore it with his cognitive origin of discovery, given that he is an INTP, right? So the God functions, these God functions end up dominating each of the 4 temples. So the 4 types that are attached to each of the 4 temples, 4 times 4 is 16, all ultimately serve at the feet of the God P, right? Achievement. This is why achieve a grand experience and my own experience. What can I explore? They're all about exploration. They're all about, in as much as you having the substance necessary, the firmament necessary to actually character, right? And from the soul temple's perspective, you can't even become someone of great character unless you're desirable, in as much as you having the substance necessary, the firmament necessary to actually be a person of great character, right? That's what that's all about. So from beyond that, we also have the body temple, which is introverted sensing is one of their God functions. Introverted sensing is concerned about what is left behind. It is concerned about the grand experience and my own experience. What can I explore? They're all about exploration. They're all about experiencing so much more. And then extroverted thinking, which represents achievement. And
introverted.
Even something that is explored, or exploring the unknown, is in its own right represents achievement and explore. They're all about exploration. Is introverted sensing is one of their God functions. Introverted sensing is concerned about what is left behind. It is concerned about the grand experience and my own experience. What can I explore? They're all about exploration. They're all about experiencing so much more.
Yeah, you're exploring Minecraft
thinking,
right now.
Which represents
extroverted thinking. Okay, that makes sense.
Even
that's why ESFJs are so obsessed with their status.
This is why Elon Musk is trying to get to Mars, for example.
That makes a lot of sense.
And that is his ambition, and that is what he is spending his life doing, trying to get to Mars and explore it with his cognitive origin of discovery, given that he is an INTP, right? So the God functions, these God functions end up dominating each of the 4 temples. So the 4 types that are attached to each of the 4 temples, 4 times 4 is 16, all ultimately serve at the feet of the God functions that rule over, if not oversee, or are the focus of attention or the focus of worship by the members of each of the 4 temples. And that's ultimately what God functions ultimately are. And God functions have a ton of uses. They even provide an entirely new level of ego hacking that people are not even really aware of, which is very, very fascinating. It's kind of like how an ESTP, even though they have expert intuition demon, they really, really care about being wanted and about being chosen and about being included. They really care about it. And oftentimes, you know, if they don't have that, they're just going to shut down. And that's because of their God functions, for example. So anyway, folks, that's it for this introduction for Season 35. I look forward to seeing you in the very near future for all of these episodes for Season 35. So thanks for watching.
That is a degenerate name, and you're a degenerate for using it. This one needs to be shrunk a little bit.
I gave you all I own, put you on this golden throne, but I'm a little stronger now.
What's up, Egohackers?
Let me see. I'll be honest with y'all. This weather makes me so angry. Like, I am... Oh, yeah. This weather makes me so angry because whenever it rains, I am just like, ugh. I want to go to sleep. But I will not violate my circadian rhythm, and I'll just bear with it because I know that this tiredness that I feel is not actually based on my sleep pattern. So I'll let it pass. Also, if y'all want, y'all can like, what type do you want to hear about? And I'll put it on the thingy-bobber. I mean, that was just the introduction to cognitive origins. I would usually like say a piece here about what I thought, like how I could relate it to my experiences and all that, but since the God functions are so new, all I could really relate it to is myself. And I guess yeah, I can do that real quick actually. So in my own life, yeah, I mostly am concerned with, like I said before, my future and making sure that it's good. ENTJ women? Okay, I'll put one about ENTJ women. But yeah, when my future had an overarching theme in the sense that my future didn't get influenced by other people at all. In the sense that most girls when they're growing up talk about getting married and talk about doing all these things because they're influenced by society to kind of gravitate towards that route. But when I was growing up, when I was a teenager and a young girl, I didn't really think about that at all because 1, I have SE demon, 2, I have TE critic, so not really prone to being influenced by those things to begin with, but also I just wanted to draw comics. Like that was always what my future was going to be. And That was all I was really concerned about. Like, I always just was drawing comics because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a comic book artist. I wanted to write stories and I wanted to tell people stories. So that's what I did. And it didn't matter what people wanted me to do with my life because that's not what I wanted to do with my life. My dad would always tell me that I couldn't draw comics for a job because people don't pay for that. And that didn't really stop me from changing my interests. Like, I never gave up on drawing or anything like that because I really, really love telling stories and I really, really like drawing comics. And it never left me. That feeling of desire never left me. It never, because everybody draws as a kid, but it didn't leave me. Because I always envisioned myself to be an artist, a comic book artist specifically. That's my little bit on that. And how much... Hello, good evening, Brian. That's how much my desire affected me. It pretty much drowned out everything else. Like, people can tell me what my future needs to be and everything like that, and that's all well and good, and I'll listen to them and I'll take their advice, but I still want what I want, and that is to draw. Which is good that it's like so workable into my life, but I would imagine if my desire was something really insane, then I would be at odds with everybody. Like, that's just the type of person I am. I would, like, people can't threaten to take away my future and enrage me, but I always had this feeling of if somebody tells me that I can't have something, I'll be like, okay, but then I'll secretly want it more. Like, and it won't even be something that I'm doing spitefully, but I'll just want it and want it and want it and want it, and I'll just get into this mode that this is what I want though. I have like it's nagging at me. I have to listen to what I want in some way. So yeah, NI is definitely strong with me. Let's see. You want an ENTJ video, ENTJ woman video? There was one recently. Why do ENTJ types treat their crush poorly? Okay, let's see.
The CSJ podcast. I'm your host, CS Joseph, and this is another CSJ Responds video, as I am feeding a baby and shooting a live stream simultaneously because
shooting a baby
like that. Never not do multiple things as I am feeding a baby and shooting a live stream simultaneously because I have mad skill like that. Never not do multiple things at the same time because movement. Hey, buddy. So, with that being said, why do ENTJs treat their crush poorly? There's a lot of reasons for that. Oh, come on, little man. You're good. You're good. Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't have all the milk coming through. Gotta hold the bottle right. So the reason why is in a lot of books about relationships and masculine feminine relationships, there's this concept known as friction, and oftentimes the concept of friction is attached to women, and it's like when you initiate with a woman and you're going to ask her out, etc. She'll say yes or she'll say no because she either doesn't like you or find you attractive, or she's going to say no for other reasons, like she's already in a relationship, or the timing's bad because she's working, or she has to go to work, or something else is happening, and that's called friction. Like, She's rejecting you not because she has a problem with you. She's rejecting you because the time or place is off, basically. Well, ENTJs, regardless of them being men or women, react in some interesting ways relating to that. And why is that? Well, it's because of extroverted, or it's because of introverted feeling inferior. And they really, really go out of their way to avoid feeling bad about themselves, which means they want to make sure that they are not in embarrassing situations. And approaching an ENTJ oftentimes can upset them because it's as if their NI parent had their choice taken away. It's like, okay, wow, you initiated with me, but I didn't want you. And if I wanted you, I would have initiated with you. So they're going to react negatively to their choice being taken away. And they're especially going to react negatively if their choice is being taken away, plus they have to deal with
a bit
of
tired
friction
too
of
today.
some kind, which
But I've only got 20 more minutes, so I'll tough it out.
Yeah, I know, but that's all that's in your bottle, and I think you're good with that, little man. Yeah, just had your bottle, and now you're looking at your father being all weird on television right now. That's all good, you know, in the middle of the night.
Television?
It's all good, little man. So yeah, leave it up to ENTP to live stream and take care of a baby simultaneously, you know. Who knows what CSJ will do next, you know, while he's live streaming. Are you gonna cry during my live stream, really? It's okay if you do. It's all good. I'm sure my SE Demon will enjoy it and everyone else will hate it. So it's all good. But anyway, it's really due to fiction.
Friction.
ENTJs, it's so funny because they often have a relation, you know, that what do you call it? That reputation for treating people like crap that they like. And the thing is that while, you know, say for example, an INTP or an NP of some kind gathered enough courage to actually go approach an ENTJ, male or female, doesn't matter, and be like, hey, you know, I'm interested in having a relationship with you, or at least going out or something, etc. At that point in time, the ENTJ would be like, okay, well, you know, now that at least I know where you stand, right? Because sometimes, you know, ENTJs appreciate people being direct because they themselves are direct. And sometimes they honor that courage that the NP type, for example, just as an example, was able to muster in that way. But it's really courage of any SI user. If an SI user is to muster up that courage, they at a minimum feel flattered, even though they're going to reject that person. But that doesn't mean that later that they might become accustomed to that person. They already know that person is interested in them, and the ENTJ basically has already established that they have rejected that person. But some time goes by, and their NI parent is like, okay, hey, I might actually be interested. And then they turn around, and then they end up allowing themselves to then become the pursuer, because the ENTJ always wants to be in the role of the pursuer instead of the pursuee. So even if they like the person and the person initiates with them, the ENTJ is going to react negatively and treat them like crap at every turn, because they want to be the pursuer. They don't want to be the pursuee. Now, that's hard. It's a hard concept for a lot of people to accept. It's really difficult because, you know, even some ENTJs would have a hard time listening to this, be like, okay, Mr. CSJ, are you sure that's actually like the reality? Well, it is, because remember, extroverted sensing child wants the opportunity to make every mistake in the book, and it wants to be around people who are strong enough to stick around SE child, stick around the ENTJ, even though the ENTJ may mess up, right? And that's where that comes from. That's what that's all about. They know that there is a real chance of failure. Extroverted sensing is very aware of their own chance of failure at all times, and they really want to be around people who are strong enough to stick around in the event that they fail, right? And that's really, really important to them. That's another reason why if any ENTJ has a crush, they're going to basically, for lack of a better term, shit all over their crush and treat them like crap, treat them poorly, even on a consistent basis. Because at that point, they realize that that person is still sticking around, even though that the ENTJ potentially has disrespected that person. And they're like, okay, I might actually want that person now because they can definitely endure and put up with my crap. Now, granted, that's more likely to happen with an ENTJ man. It is less likely to happen with an ENTJ woman. Reason why is because an ENTJ woman would be probably more open to the man rejecting her after she treated him like crap, because the man would call her out for being disrespectful, right? There's a good chance of that. And as a result of that, the ENTJ woman will just end up wanting to pursue even more. And that can be, something that would happen as a result. Hey, little buddy. No, it's okay.
I think that's some
okay.
ISFP woman body
You
types.
got my phone? You like looking at my phone? That's all right, buddy. So, but that's another thing too. Like, you can also use this as like a guide to figure out if you yourself are actually, if you're interested in an ENTJ. If you want to know if they're interested in you, well, if they're treating you like crap, they're interested in you. Like, straight up. If the ENTJ is treating you like crap, they're interested in you. I don't know why you're crying, buddy. You had a diaper, you got new clothes on, I cleaned up your barf, you had something to eat, you're good. Or are you just too hot? That might be it.
Oh wait, Bella Delphine is no, she's an ISF. No,
that
she's
could be
an
a problem.
ENTJ, not an ISF.
That could be a serious problem. So with that being known, it's like, well, how do I actually know that ENTJ is going to be into me? Well, really, it just comes down to a few different things. It's like whether or not, ultimately, it's whether or not, they can ever get to the point where it's like, okay, I can accept that I'm providing, a lot of tension right now. I'm treating you like crap, etc. But I really need to see you're going to stick around. I really need to see that. And that's just something that SE optimistics all have. Like, even ESTPs, regardless of gender, will do this too, in the same way that an ENTJ would. But the ENTJ, because it's a child, they just kind of have a bigger need, because at least the SE hero is willing to go on a rest or rest on its laurels to a point, right? And that too can be a big issue when comparing. But the SE child, when compared to an ENTJ, but the SE child just keeps going and going and going and going, and it's way more sensitive. It's way more sensitive to rejection, and that's why it's willing to go even further than, say, for example, an SE hero, a lot further, right? Ugh. So that's another important thing to realize about ENTJs as a result of that situation. So anyway, so yeah, in summary, basically, ENTJs, the way they are, if they're treating you like crap and they're a member of the opposite sex, basically they have a crush on you, and you might want to consider calling them out, being direct with them about whether or not you're interested in them or not. Or it could be due to friction, but it's not likely, because an ENTJ is not even going to spend time with you necessarily if there is friction per se, because time and place really matters to ENTJs. And at first, it's difficult for them to actually learn that, and they're not really used to that in life, basically, and that can be a problem as well. So yeah. All right. Yay. Well, you know what, Joe Blogs? I'll be honest with you. I don't give a damn about your opinion, because at least I'm showing up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I get that there's little visibility, but, video quality, I don't care if you have a good experience. I really don't. I'm not an extrovert sensor.
That's a guy.
I just have to be comfortable enough to be willing to produce the content, bro. If you don't like that, that's fine. You can go to a different channel. It's all good. it's no big deal. It's no skin off my nose. You know what I'm saying? So just be happy that I'm at
Skin
least
off your
showing up.
nose?
At least I'm doing the minimal. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. Anyway, I gotta take care of my baby right now because like I wasn't expecting him to fill his pants, so I gotta go deal with that. But anyway, just be on the lookout that if an ENTJ is treating you like crap and they're a member of the opposite sex, chances are they actually have a crush on you, and you might want to follow that up and basically see how that goes. INTJs will just straight up ignore you. Mercer, you're asking about INTJs. How do INTJs differ? The difference is that INTJs will just straight up ignore you and pretend you don't even exist. And if you know that they're ignoring you, that's how you know that they're like, if you walk into a room and they don't even acknowledge your existence or even look at you or give you any attention whatsoever, that's how you know they're giving you all of their attention. And that's an invitation to basically be like, hey, what's up? Besides, even if it isn't, at least it's an opportunity to go SE demon them for some fun afterwards. So
Yeah.
do ENFJs do the same with SE child? No, I think ENFJs are more smothering. Like, they just smother people. And I think that's what they do there. And it's like, no, Joe Blogs, it doesn't mean ENTJs will abuse you. It means that if you call them out on that, they'll respect you. It doesn't matter, male or female, they will respect you. And then it's a good foundation for a great relationship if you can see through their bullshit. Because no one else sees through their bullshit. So... Anyway, thank you all for watching. Just doing a couple of shorts here and there because I thought that this information would be funny because I'm encountering it on a daily basis. So, anyway, I got to go handle my INTJ son. So, anyway, folks, with all that being said, see you guys maybe tonight or tomorrow night. Not sure. Later.
Yeah, I don't know about being treated like garbage, but I do like being smothered. I think I've been treated like garbage enough in my life. I don't really have much to say about that because my experiences with the NTJs are pretty minimal. A TP versus FJ comparison. Let's do one on ISFP since I'm designing the ISFP for the next 7 minutes. I just saw it. Would you actually enjoy being treated... Oh. Would you actually enjoy being treated like crap, though? I could see the appeal to it.
I gave you
Oh, look at me gravitating towards my interest for once. Where is... NFP. I swear I saw an ISFP one. It's probably in my library because yeah, that's what I'm saying. There it is.
I gave you all I own.
Let's go, 5 minutes.
But I'm a little stronger now.
What's up, Egohackers? Welcome to the C.S. Joseph podcast. I'm your host, C.S. Joseph.
Yeah, that's true.
Rumor has it we're going to be seeing hopefully some
You want a
Chris
tsundere.
Taylor this week, and which is awesome. Be able to have him on the show. Very excited to have him here and have him with us to be able to share his extremely valuable opinion with us on the science. a big deal. Very big deal. And especially since, you know, I enjoy, like, his extroverted thinking child actually helps me come to a better understanding of the science as well because of his thematic approach. Logic is great, but what I've come to realize is that when it comes to this science, if the themes don't match the logic, then it's incomplete, and it's possible that, you know, my foundation of logic could be, you know, utilized or understood on a false premise, and then it just will take it in a completely wrong direction. And it's ultimately because of Chris's work that we had to redo some of the mistakes that I presented in the temples, and then that was fixed. I had the opportunity to re-present the temples in Season 18, Cognitive Mechanics, and that helped build an even better foundation for our fundamental understanding that continues to grow of the octagram, basically. So I'd like to give special thanks to Chris to that end for being there with us to facilitate that. So yeah. But today's acolyte question is about a kindred relationship. It's about ISFPs and INFPs. And how these two types have a hard time setting boundaries. Probably because I've said that in the past. They absolutely do have a hard time setting boundaries.
Somebody's unlocking their Toyota.
Down to one thing and one thing only, and that is their parent function. You have extroverted sensing parents from the perspective of the ISFP. You have extroverted intuition parent from the perspective of the INFP. And that ends up causing a lot of difficulties because what happens is that these two functions start out super underdeveloped. I mean, development of the parent function, it wakes up. It's all of a sudden, boom, it's in their head. It starts being there in adolescence, and it's not really utilized that much, you know, as a child. You know, according to Chris Taylor, for example,
Link is not glowing.
Is what the ego decides to lead with until the parent function actually becomes fully developed and a person's sense of personal responsibility.
What do you mean Link is not glowing?
So it's because of extroverted sensing parent and extroverted intuition parent being underdeveloped that ultimately these two types really struggle, and I mean really struggle. These two types really struggle with setting boundaries. But there's also another aspect to it. It's not just SE parent, it's not just any parent, but also they have the same inferior function, which is extroverted thinking inferior, which is fear or anxiety or insecurity about their status, their reputation, how they look to other people, how they're regarded, how they're respected by others, how much power and authority they actually have, and whether or not other people think highly of them. These people are hypersensitive and hyper-aware of what other people think about them. And the thing is, too, is that, like, you know, an ISFP, for example, doesn't like being rejected. Extroverted sensing parent. The INFP doesn't like to be unwanted and not desired by others. Extroverted intuition parent. And when it's really underdeveloped, they can be hypersensitive to that because to a young ISFP, the idea of being rejected by anybody is extremely controversial to them. And it means like, oh, this person rejected me, so I guess, so they end up taking it really personally. They take it as if, well, I don't have enough status, I don't have enough importance as a human being.
Which link are you referring to?
I'm not respectable enough, I don't have enough status enough. And then because they see that, they assume that, they're like, well, then I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, right? That's how they end up rationalizing it within their FI hero. And same thing goes with the INFP. It's like, hey, you know, if I'm not desirable enough, you know, these people are going to think less of me, and then I'm going to feel bad about myself. I'm going to feel like I don't even matter. You know what I'm saying? And that ends up becoming
I think so,
like,
yeah.
a big problem.
Because I don't even see a link.
A really big problem. Most people don't even understand. They don't understand.
I might be able to change that in settings
how the
next
FI hero
time.
has it, basically. Because
okay, it's 8 o'clock. I gotta go to bed.
They're worthy.
Thank you for joining my stream, all you that joined, and I hope you, if you didn't get to see it live, leave me some feedback on things that maybe gave you some pet peeves that I could be doing better. give me some suggestions on what you would like to see and all that. I believe when I finish up with these types, I'll start doing some other types of designs, some little cute little pictures and things like that, and explaining more of the cognitive mechanics that I can see in my day-to-day life. And also